Hello there, YouTube. Thanks for stopping by. Pick Six Podcast YouTube channel. If you could, hit the like button, turn on alerts, and don't forget to subscribe. You actually probably have to subscribe before you turn on alerts. That makes sense. Anywho, thanks for stopping by. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, Cbsport's daily NFL podcast. I'm Overton. I'm your host. It is Tuesday, July 26th. If you're listening to the podcast in audio form, as one might think you would do with a podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, we are always live on YouTube from now until the end of time, because we are YouTubers. It's Monday, July 25th. We've got a great weekend. Joining me to talk about some AFC North burning training camp questions. Is that what we're doing? Seems like it. We're doing several AFC training divisions. It's not AFC North, it's AFC East. I had scrolled too far down. I was like, why the hell am I talking about the AFC North with Sully? That didn't make any damn sense.
I was very confused for a minute. I'm like, wow, I'm prepared for not a lot of that.
Yeah,
but
I was like, AFC North. That didn't make any sense. I was like,
what's up, bro? How you doing?
Yeah, what's up? Tyler Sullivan joined me. Sully. Yeah, I botched that. Whatever. It happens. I was actually, I actually, you know what I actually did? I put prep into this. I did prep and it's disappeared.
See, that's what you get for doing prep.
That's exactly right. That's what I had to get for prepping. So stupid. Why would I prep? By the way, we are a nominee for the Best Sports Podcast category of the People's Choice Podcast Awards. As always, we appreciate everything you guys do for us, and we hope you like the show enough to nominate us to move to the final round. To do so, go to podcastawards.com/app/sign up, toggle down to the sports category, select pick six. Takes about 60 seconds to do, and the link is even in the description of the podcast that you are currently listening to on your telephone. So very fast, very easy. And if we advance to the final round and then win the overall award, I will get a tattoo on my body.
I like it.
Yeah. And we don't need to talk about tattoos any further, although I will note on Monday's show, which was Friday's mailbag, Ryan Wilson was starting to try to weasel his way out of this tattoo in Nashville.
Oh, come on.
He was like, I don't know if we'll have time in between all the work stuff. It's like, this is a work thing.
It's true. It is.
Like, I don't know if we'll have time to stream it. It's like, what do you mean time to stream it? He was going to pull out his phone and fire it up on YouTube. Like, this is like the most important work thing that you'll do while in Nashville.
Yeah.
is to get this tattoo and get the forthcoming live streams of the tattoo.
There is no doubt in my mind that will get the most eyeballs, that many clicks, the most out of anything you guys do down there. 100%.
Down there. How about all year? It's gonna get more clicks than like a Super Bowl show. Anywho, we're gonna go straight to the AFC East. We're gonna skip the news, although we of course we appreciate Nada. I assume built it up to run down. Finding the news that is out there. The Ravens, some PUP guys, and one of them is in the AFC, so we can mention them. Ronnie Stanley, J.K. Dobbins, Tre'Davious White with the Bills, David Bakhtiari, Darius Leonard, Byron Jones, Michael Thomas, and Mekhi Becton all placed on the PUP list. I wouldn't expect, like, J.K. Dobbins was like trash talking Ian Rappaport of NFL media, which was kind of funny. But he's like, I'll be ready week one. I would say that of these, that the most concerning one for me would be David Bakhtiari, just because of the way in which it was sort of described that he might have trouble being ready for the start of the season. He's still on the PUP list when the season starts. You have to miss time.
Right. And that's the thing, too, to point out. If you're on the PUP list now, over the training camp, preseason, you can come off whenever. It's not like during the regular season where you're banished for like 8 weeks or whatever it used to be, but now it's 4. So at least that's
it used to be 6. Now it's 4.
Yeah.
6 was a lot.
Long time.
You start the season on the PUP list, you got to miss the first 6 games.
Yeah,
4 seems better. I was actually worried though. I'm trying to remember when they changed that. They changed that.
I think it might have been last year.
Yeah, I think it was last year.
It's fairly recent.
It's very recent, yeah. So anyway, a lot of people get put on the PUP list. Like Jalen Ramsey was put on the PUP list. It's not a huge deal right now.
They actually took him off, or didn't.
Oh, they didn't
even decide. Like they were gonna put him on, and then I think they were like, he's healthy enough that it's all good.
Oh, maybe I read that wrong.
No, it was reported like that he was going on PUP.
Not to put him on. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. We actually have a PUP list tracker on cbsport.com, run by Cody Benjamin and Sully.
There you go.
CBS has started. They're not letting me block ads on CBS. I thought I had anyway. I don't. There's a little pop up showing up. It's like, hey, you can't read this until you turn off your ad blocker. I'm like, no, I can read that. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I work here. make me turn off my ad blocker. I guess I should give revenue to our company by allowing those ads to show up. Mekhi Becton's a big deal if he's not ready. But you know, and then Tre'Davious White, like those two guys from the AFC East. I mean, you know, I think like the Bills will be fine in terms of like winning football games without Tre'Davious White, but they're not going to be like a Super Bowl team without Tre'Davious White. Probably. Like I think that lack, like they need that shutdown corner on that side of the ball. And then, you know, if the Jets want to if they want Zach Wilson to take that step forward, like Mekhi Becton's got to also take a step forward, I think.
Right. At some point or another, Becton needs to be on, you know, at one of the starting tackle spots for the Jets. I mean, whether it's blindside tackle or right tackle with George Fant, they can kind of duke that out in camp because Fant played pretty well last season in that spot with Becton being out, but for sure. And then with White, I mean, absolutely. They were the number one pass defense in DVOA throughout the year, even though he missed the last chunk of it. And obviously they were going toe to toe with the Chiefs in that divisional round game. But if you want an all-pro corner there, you know, at that spot, if you really want to contend for a title. I know you have great safeties. You drafted a cornerback in the first round, but Tre'Davious White is the cherry on top for that defense that's really going to make noise.
Yeah, I mean, he's an elite guy when he is fully healthy. He's coming back from an ACL tear, so I suppose it's possible that McDermott told reporters that, quote, he's on schedule. He looks really good. He's working his tail off, and Trey's a consummate pro, so he has not changed. We're excited to get him back when he can get back. What does on schedule mean? Quote, he's on schedule with what the trainers are telling me he's on schedule. I think he's got a great look in his eye. I know. I mean, this is unbelievable coach talk. I know what he's working back towards, and really, other than that, that's all I can say. It's like so. Oh, so he's on schedule. So what is he on schedule for? He's on schedule for the schedule. Of course, that's the schedule. And really, that's all I can say, other than the fact that he is a consummate pro with a great look in his eye.
Well, I mean, if we look at, he tore his ACL on Thanksgiving. So you're talking a little bit under a year. If we're talking September, you know, that's a couple months shy of when he tore it. So, you know, that's still pretty good. But like even you said, Will, like if he's not able to come back in the first, you know, couple of weeks, like let's say they actually put him on PUP and he's gone for the first month.
Yeah,
they can withstand that. That's not something that is totally, you know, a death blow to them. I don't know what the beginning schedule is. Obviously, they're playing the Rams right out of the gate. So obviously you'd like to have a guy like
the
that.
Rams, and then they got the Titans at Miami, at Baltimore. That's a really tough schedule.
Tough schedule to start. So obviously you'd like to have them. But in reality, this team's going to be in contention throughout the year. Is going to be really, you know, knocking on the door for a Super Bowl. You'd much rather have them for that second half. So, I mean, again, if you're weighing those options there, if you want to get him a little bit closer to that 1 year mark of when he actually suffered the injury, then maybe you think of PUP for, you know, to start the year. But other than that, it's really more of a, you know, how is this secondary going to respond without him? They played well last year. Obviously, you have Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. You draft Kaiir Elam. There are pieces there. Obviously, you add Von Miller to pass rush, so that will help alleviate some of that pressure against the pass. But ultimately, again, you want to have him in your secondary at some point or another. But I think they'd much rather be cautious to start so they know that they have him on the back end.
I agree with that completely. And I think that's how the Bills will take things. But I would expect, like, if you're talking about like Thanksgiving ACL, you should be back in time for camp. Like, unless there's complications with the recovery.
Right.
Like, I would excuse me, back in time for the start of the season. Like, I would not be. I mean, if I was a Bills fan, my panic meter would be like a 1.5 out of 10 right now for Tre'Davious White, because you get, you know, another month from now, and you know he's just fully back. You're just not worried about it. So I think that is certainly it's a big training camp question. It's one of the ones that we have listed here. It's actually the top one. We somehow magically segued right into it. I'd like to tell you that I meant to do that when I brought up Mekhi Becton and Tre'Davious White, but it was an accident, so that's okay. But you know what? Sometimes it's okay to be accidentally professional. Well, my original question was going to be what, like, all right. So, but we already talked about Tre'Davious White's injury. But do you, would you, okay, with that in mind, knowing like what we think the timeline is for it, are you? I would be much more concerned personally with the change in the Bills' offensive coordinator
Yeah. To
from
me,
Brian Dable to Ken Dorsey than I would be with Tre'Davious White getting back and being an impact player for the Bills out of the gate.
yeah, because we've seen players deal with these injuries and come back, even if they're 85%, they're still able to play at a high level. And I'm not really worried about White in that regard. There's a huge unknown that what we're getting from Ken Dorsey going from Brian Dable. We've talked about this a bunch, over the summer, where you have that has to count for something going from Brian Dable, who is considered to be one of the best offensive play callers in the NFL, credited for helping Josh Allen become an MVP favorite. When you take that out of the equation now, that has to mean something, even though he's leaving a pretty solid situation, a pretty solid foundation. And one thing that I thought was interesting today was, I think it was Dawson Knox who was talking to reporters and was talking about Ken Dorsey. And there is going to be some change. We don't know what it's going to be. He said, I don't want to give any trade secrets, but there are some cool twists. So he's saying that, okay, there's some fun wrinkles that are going to be added to the offense. But I'm more of looking at it and saying, okay, well, there's going to be changes to this offense that was already high flying. And yeah, it might sound cool in training camp, but what does it actually look like when you're facing defenses and game plans from a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the other things too is that this is a guy in Dorsey. Look, Ken Dorsey's has a lengthy history with Sean McDermott and with the everyone running the Bills. Like he was the quarterbacks coach at Carolina, and I just want to make sure I got the full timeline of it. Yeah, so he came in 2011 with the Panthers as a scout and was a quarterbacks coach there from 2013 through 2017, and he left and went and joined the Bills. I'm trying to think what he did in 2018. You're just hanging out, throwing footballs, Ken Dorsey? What's going on here? And he's been with the Bills now for 4 years. So like a lot of these Carolina guys migrated north. I mean, like this, it's Carolina North is like basically what everybody calls them. But what was he doing? What did he do in 2018? How's there no list of? How am I forgetting what he did? He was at FIU. What the? He was the assistant athletic director.
Well, isn't that change?
Yeah, isn't it? That is what? Why did he do that? That is so weird.
Yeah, it's quite the change.
He left the Panthers. Oh, he was fired. That's right, along with Mike Shula. Oh, that's right, because he was. Oh, yeah. Ron Rivera basically was forced to fire Mike Shula, and Dorsey was fired as well. I forgot about that, man. And so then he was hired by the Bills after McDermott left to bounce up there. So he wasn't actually pulled away from Carolina. Okay, but he had been with McDermott for a long time. He knows McDermott very well. He's part of the quarterbacks coach. The quarterbacks coach who went to the Super Bowl. Like he's got experience, but he has never called plays.
Right.
That to me is like the big question mark, because if you've never called plays and you're the offensive coordinator, it would I mean, if you're a first-time play caller, it is not out of the realm of possibility that the head coach will impact some more leveraged suggestions on your play calling than they might otherwise if you were a long-time play caller who came in. And what I'm trying to say is that it wouldn't be outrageous to suggest that Sean McDermott is interested in running the ball more because he has Dorsey in there instead of Brian Dable. And I know that and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Dorsey just gets to cut it loose, like Dawson Knox is talking about. There's all kinds of crazy, like we're really going to pass even more. I don't think you can know for sure, but I do know that McDermott is a more conservative type of coach, and you have a guy who worked for Mike Shula, who was not exactly a high flying offense type of dude. So if Dorsey is more conservative, if they run the football more, does it cause this offense to stumble a little bit out of the gates? Like that wouldn't be that crazy.
Right. And like you're saying too, I think that there's obviously a longer leash for a guy like Brian Dable to kind of take some risks in certain situations. And, if you're talking about, just something super simple where it's are you going forward on fourth down in a certain situation in the middle of the field? There's something along those lines. I think Daboll has a little bit more stake to actually make that decision than Dorsey. And McDermott's looking at it saying, you know what, a little bit more conservative, saying, all right, well, actually let's go in this direction. And then you're really getting two minds instead of one trying to dictate the offense.
Absolutely. All right. Also with the I think the Bills, like how their pass rush is probably their biggest weakness. If you're trying to figure out something, and so the question is who ends up winning the job opposite Von Miller, whether it's Boogie Basham or Greg Rousseau. I would guess that Leslie Frazier just implements some kind of rotation.
Yeah.
And particularly they're going to have Von Miller. They paid Von Miller a ton of money. They want to use him, but I don't think that they'll be aggressive in their snap count with Von Miller early in the season. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were a little more wary of trying to load up his snaps, just because they want him there with 13 seconds left against the Chiefs late in the season.
Yeah, I think it's something similar to what we were saying with Tre'Davious White. Obviously, Miller not coming back from an injury, but just a veteran player. You want to manage his workload earlier in the year, so when you do get into those playoff scenarios, you're somewhat fresh in that regard. And like you said, I think that there's going to be a rotation there, but it is a pretty significant change at pass rusher. I mean, obviously you're bringing in Von Miller, you're moving on from Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison. I mean, those were your lead guys last year. Now you're kind of having this youth movement, but also this superstar veteran. It's kind of an interesting dynamic of how that's going to shake out.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the New England Patriots. Why are there, we talked about this, we could really do like 2 whole podcasts on it because it's the weirdest thing in the world. It's not unusual for the Patriots, but there's no named offensive or defensive coordinator currently. Sully, what is your read as a Cbsport Patriots insider?
Yeah, it's the defensive one. I guess it's
Senior
okay.
Patriots insider, excuse me.
The defensive side of the ball, you feel at least somewhat okay about, because Steve Belichick, Bill Belichick, Gerard Mayo, there's enough of a brain trust on that side where I feel a little bit more comfortable. I'm a little less comfortable about the personnel that they have. They really don't have that many outside corners. Linebacker is going through a youth movement, so there's a lot of questions there. But the play calling, I think that'll get figured out. It's the offensive side for me that alarm bell should be going off. I know Joe Judge is technically not the offensive coordinator, but he's the quarterback's coach. So he's working directly with Mac Jones going into year 2. That's of concern. If you're a New York Giants fan or you watch the New York Giants, you saw the lack of development that Daniel Jones had since he arrived. So that's obviously, when you're kind of looking at those comparisons there, that's something that should be of concern. And then Matt Patricia, that offense that they ran in Detroit, obviously he was the head coach. He wasn't the offensive play caller, but still not particularly effective with Matthew Stafford as your quarterback. So when you look at those subpar offenses, when both of those guys were head coaches, and then one of them, really struggled in developing a former first-round guy as head coach, you can't help but say, okay, what is going to go on here? And like we were even saying, Sue, none of these guys have offensive play calling experience. Patricia has defensive play calling experience for when he was with the Patriots as the defensive coordinator, and Joe Judge was a special teams coordinator, but none of them have that experience on the offensive side of the ball. So whether it's Bill Belichick kind of coming in or Joe Judge or Matt Patricia, all of that just seems like there's too many cooks in the kitchen for Mac Jones.
Yeah. I mean, my theory remains the same, that Belichick has, I don't think he cares about the defensive side of the ball. But I think it applies a little bit in terms of naming the OC or the DC. Like, I don't think he wants to name the OC because I don't think he wants to invite a bunch of questions about a specific name and how that person, whether it's Joe Judge or Matt Patricia, is going to handle play calling. Like, I think Belichick believes that he can give somebody a playbook and tell them to basically do this, 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 and this, and that Matt Patricia and Joe Judge can execute that from a play calling standpoint fairly simply.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he wants to spend the next 3 weeks answering questions about why he's making his old defensive coordinator the offensive coordinator. or like why why Joe Judge and the job he did with the Giants warrants him being the play caller for the Patriots. I don't think he wants to deal with answering those questions.
But doesn't that? But I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, doesn't this invite even more questions? Like, all right,
With any other team,
if they have a horrible, like, let's just say out of the gate week 1 in Miami, the offense is just falling all over its face, 10 points, and they lose to Miami. Isn't like the first question out of the gate who was calling plays that day? And then if they have a great day the next week, okay, who was calling it then? And if he's answering those questions, like, oh, it was Matt Patricia this week, Joe Judge the next, then I don't know. I feel like you're just inviting even more weird questions throughout the year, as opposed to saying, hey, listen, this is the guy that's doing it in training camp. We'll streamline it. We'll figure it out throughout the course of the summer. And then at least when you get to a weird showing in week 3 or week 4 or whatever it is, you can at least say, hey, listen, we're still working through it, but Matt Patricia's our guy, or Joe Judge is our guy.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that like having no offensive coordinator is a good move. And I would almost say that the having no defensive coordinator named is probably partially to help deflect away from the OC fact. Like, it's like, look, why are you asking me about the offensive coordinator? We don't have a named defensive coordinator anyway. I think titles are overrated. We work together as a team here. Our goal is to try and navigate this as best as possible. Start of the season will be offense and scoring and okay.
Yeah, it's so ambiguous that it's just
Yeah, it's just, I mean, like, and then Belichick will answer it in like I'm disgusted with you for even asking me the question because I'm smarter than you. Typical Belichick kind of way. I've been like, and I mean, like, to be honest, like, to be fair, like, there's no Tom Brady there. There's no like Deflategate storyline. Like, it's just going to be Pat's beat writers.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not saying that Pat's beat writers are not going to ask the question. Like, they know they will ask and try and find it out. But I would doubt that like Tom Curran or Ben Volen or Mike Reese are going to every day pepper Belichick's ass with questions about the OC title, because eventually they're going to get because they've done this for so long that they know how Belichick's going to respond to it, and that he's not going to get. It's like you're not going to like harass Belichick into giving you like the truth. Like he's doing what he's doing for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's just I can just picture like him getting like not getting away with this, but just it's like he's going to have some kind of weird answer for it and just refuse to give it up.
Right. And one thing to point out too with the not naming OCs and DCs, that has happened before. Like it's not foreign in New England for Belichick not to name coordinators, but at the same time, in those situations, we all knew who the play callers were. Like Josh McDaniels didn't hold the title of offensive coordinator.
It's happened multiple times, like in the past 10 years or so.
Brian Flores was one of those guys for the defensive side. Matt Patricia's the same way. It's happened before, but at least you knew who it was. Now it's a little bit more clouded on both sides, whether it's Steve Belichick or Gerard Mayo being the defensive play caller for the Patriots, or if it's Joe Judge or Matt Patricia. Maybe we'll have it a little bit more streamlined when we actually see it in a regular season or preseason game. But at the same time, it's a little bit more clouded than it was in years past. So yes, it's happened before, but not necessarily like this.
Yeah, 2005, Charlie Weiss had been hired away by Notre Dame. Yeah. And the Patriots were the defending Super Bowl champions. And Josh McDaniels had been promoted to offensive coordinator, but he was not. That there was no named offensive coordinator on that team. And then they ended up like going. They went to, I think, the conference. No, they lost in the division round to the Broncos. But McDaniels was named OC the next year. He would eventually leave for Denver to take the Broncos head coaching job. And then in 2009, there was also no named offensive coordinator,
which was Billy O, I think. If that's
that's right. It was Bill O'Brien. Maybe he didn't have one in 2010 either. He didn't have a DC in 2010 either. Huh.
I think the 2010 was the McDaniels return. I think that's when Bill O'Brien.
So Billy O'Brien became official in 2011.
Okay.
And there was still no DC in 2011. Man, I mean, I covered that team in the Super Bowl. There wasn't nobody. This when they lost to the Giants the second time. It wasn't anybody asking the question, who's the DC?
Right.
Like nobody cared. I don't remember like anybody caring. And so
Well,
Patricia McDaniels
that's a
came
Brady
back.
thing too, or at least on the offensive side of the ball, because you have a guy like that out there.
Yeah.
You know, you can make those changes. I mean, we're seeing it a little bit in Tampa. Like, yeah, okay, you know, Bruce Arians is gone, and Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady are still there, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you still have two great minds, even though on the offensive side you're losing the top of the masthead in Arians.
Yeah, and I mean, so interesting. I just fascinating that he's done it. He hadn't done it in a while. Because there's just been McDaniels has been there since he came back from the Denver job.
Yeah.
And I guess he did it with the DC because Patricia left there was no DC in 2018. So it really is a case of like, I mean, look, his offensive coordinator left and took a job, and he hasn't had do you have a defensive coordinator last year?
No.
Yeah.
They haven't had
I mean, a DC in like
I think the last DC in title was actually no, it was Patricia, but then it was gonna be Schiano, if that's right. I think there was a time there where Greg Schiano was going to be the defensive coordinator, but then he left over the course of the offseason.
That's right.
I believe that's how that happened.
That's right. And so he just hasn't named one since.
No.
All right. So I mean, like, you know, he can. I mean, so Belichick can, and again, like I knew we would talk too long on this, but it's fascinating. But like Belichick can get away, can at least say there is so much precedent for this that it's not an unusual factor. All right.
Sure.
I'm sure we'll talk about the Patriots more as we move along. You mentioned the cornerback situation; they definitely need some depth there. But like to me, this is the biggest question about the Patriots: like who's running which side of the ball. Because it ultimately matters when you don't have Tom Brady and you have to worry about Mac Jones. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, the Jets and the Dolphins next.
Now that you've seen them do the universe, it's time for them to do a new series.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
This is gonna be cool.
Well, we just came here to break stuff.
Fire!
Hey, what are you doing?
Beavis and Butthead are back with an all-new series streaming August 4th exclusively on Paramount+.
All right. The Miami Dolphins, the next team up in the AFC East when it comes to training camp questions. Let's say, you could tell I was really feeling it when I was thinking of doing my research here. Let's say that Tua throws for 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions in 2022. What is the Dolphins' record?
That's second place in the division. That's probably 11-5, or is that right? 11, yeah. No, 11-6. Yeah.
I think that's about right. I would have said like over under 10.5 wins if that's his sort of production. Like, the interesting thing about Tua is that while he's getting a whole new offense, this Mike McDaniel high speed offense and Tyreek Hill's in, like, there's no excuses for him. But I also feel like it's like if you're Tua and you know that everyone is saying, yeah, it's got to be this year. Your entire life hinges on this season, Tua, or else you can never be a good quarterback again. Like you having that fresh start with the coach and the new offense, I think kind of benefits him a little bit. Obviously, Mike McDaniel, I think, is a big upgrade offensively from Brian Flores. Maybe the Dolphins' defense is a lot worse than it was last year, but I think it is like it would be shocking if Tua didn't improve from a statistical standpoint, even if he doesn't improve throwing down the field in the 2022 season.
Well, I mean, also too, yes, the coaching change from a more of a defensive mind in Brian Flores to now an offensive mind in Mike McDaniels. Obviously, it's going to help every single time. But, even just the additions that they've made this offseason, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle going into year 2, that whole backfield is pretty much done over. They fixed the offensive line to a degree, obviously adding Teron Armstead. So, like, they have weapons there, and they have protection in front of him. So he doesn't really have to make that many difficult throws. I think that this team's going to have a lot of yards after the catch. I don't necessarily think like Tyreek Hill will be used in the same way that he was used in Kansas City, where it's just run down the field, break open, and Patrick Mahomes can throw you a 70-yard pass. I think a lot of it might be used a little bit more like how you saw maybe even Jamar Chase last year. A lot of slants. You get right over the middle of the field, but then he has that breakaway speed that can rip the game open completely. So I think you see a little bit more of that with Tyreek Hill and even Jalen Waddle to a degree as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. Like these guys are gonna be utilized in yak situations.
Yeah. And he's a high percentage throw guy. It's not like he's inaccurate to a degree, especially in the short and intermediate. So if Tua can thrive in those areas, and if it's anything similar to what we saw in San Francisco, where it's just high percentage looks, a zone running scheme, wide zone running scheme, a lot of that is setting up the quarterback for success.
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, look, I think that's what this offense is going to be: is let Tua be a distributor who, like, we could see him end up with very good statistics, and the Dolphins have a very good offense, and people are like, it's all fabricated it's all created by Tua's, the yards after the catch based on the scheme. It's schemed up to help Tua. And it's like, yeah, that's the whole point. You're like, he's a system quarterback. It's like, everybody's a system quarterback. All quarterbacks play in a system. The system is literally designed to help the quarterback. Like if sure, there are guys who can get out, like, do stuff that other quarterbacks can't. But like, if you are playing quarterback, you are playing in a system. That's what an offensive scheme is. Like, like everybody has a system. Anyway, I don't know why I'm ranting on this, but the Dolphins want Tua to be a system quarterback.
And I think that there's also a line of thinking that, like, if you give, some of the Dolphins brass, obviously not the coaching staff, but just, maybe the higher ups, some truth serum that they might not want Tua to thrive, and they might want to, like, go swing for the fences and get Brady as a free agent next offseason or whatever, or make a move like that. I don't know if that's really the case. I think in an ideal world, Tua has an unbelievable season and they have their guy. Like, that is the easiest way to do it, as opposed to trying to, pick up somebody else's, damaged goods, or an old 45-year-old quarterback who's great, but, like, how long until you're back in the quarterback pool with somebody like that?
I mean, I think particularly like Chris Greer. I mean, like, and they want Tua to be great. If Tua's great, they have a young franchise quarterback. Like, and also you don't look like a total idiot for, you tried to trade up for Joe Burrow. The Bengals were like, go bleep yourselves, and then you took Tua over Justin Herbert. And so, like, if Tua makes the playoffs and maybe the Chargers don't, and it's because Tua took a big step forward in Mike McDaniel's offense, all of a sudden, there'll at least be the discussion of, okay, maybe the Dolphins aren't idiots after all. So yeah, I don't think they want Tua to fail.
No.
And I think what you want Tua to be is I was gonna say, I couldn't decide rich man's or poor man's, but you want to be Jimmy Garoppolo, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
How big of a concern is the offensive line in Miami for you?
I mean, it's more just a question of how quickly this group can mesh, right? I mean, it's like, how do all these pieces sound great? Obviously, Teron Armstead, it is interesting. I always think that this is kind of, Teron Armstead is one of the best, if not the best, left tackles in the NFL. But you also are dealing with a lefty quarterback, so it's almost less valuable.
Good point.
So you're like, okay, this is great, but he's not your blindside tackle anymore.
Yeah.
So, and you're not moving him to right tackle. Like, so to me, yeah, it's a great addition, but it's not as great as it would be if Tua was right-handed.
Yeah.
So, there's certainly parts of that again, how is all of the rest of this offensive line going to shake out? And while the pieces are nice, it's not a Madden video game. You all need to have a cohesive unit. So these next few months for them, I think, is going to be important.
Also, if I use ourlads.com for the depth charts, like virtually every reasonably intelligent NFL writer does, I think. If they are correct, it would appear that if something were to happen to Teron Armstead, who has been hurt several times in the last few years and has missed games, Greg Little would be their left tackle. So that's a significant downgrade.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, Austin Jackson, Robert Hunt, your 2020 first and second round picks. You feel like you got something there. Liam Eichenberg, the second round pick in 21, and then Connor Williams. I mean, yeah, like, if this offensive line can pick up the Mike McDaniel offense, it has a chance to be definitely above average unit, whereas it probably hasn't been particularly great in the last few years. I mean, it's just, this offense is just, it's very intriguing, How do you think the running back situation shakes out here? Because they added Chase Daniel and Raheem Mostert as free agents in the offseason. So Michelle was picked up as well, and they have Myles Gaskin. Just a lot of, like, it probably screams running back by committee. I'll tell you this: I've been drafting a ton of Raheem Mostert in best ball late in drafts, with the thought process being, he's played for Mike McDaniel before. What if he's just healthy and he just becomes a starting running back for a good Dolphins offense? Like I'm surprised at how late he's being drafted.
And to even put more gasoline on that too, he came out on Monday today saying that he was tweeting that he's all cleared, ready to go. So he has got a clean bill of health, ready to roll for this Dolphins team.
Good for me.
Start minicamp. So hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Again, I'm with you on that because, and if you listen even to the Fantasy Football Today guys too, Chase Edmonds is not particularly the kind of back that thrives when he's the featured guy. Good complimentary guy that when he was in Arizona, but hasn't necessarily, when he's been given the opportunity to be the feature back, it hasn't really produced well on the field statistically, which obviously translates to fantasy. The opposite is with Raheem Mostert. When he's healthy and he's on the field, this is the guy that ran for 220 yards and 4 touchdowns in the NFC Championship game. I mean, he has blazing speed, dominant. It's just the problem of, can he stay healthy? So I do think that there will be some of leaning on Raheem Mostert early on, especially because of that familiarity with Mike McDaniel in San Francisco. But I do think you see a healthy kind of combination of Edmonds, Mostert, and Sony Michel in there as well. Because Michel played well, at times for the Rams last year too.
Yeah, Michel is the type of guy who's like, you're like, all right, we're up by 16 points. Let's give this guy the ball and close it out because we want to. Like Chase Edmonds has 9 games with more than 10 carries in his career. And he's been over 100 in just 2 of those. In one of those, he ran 12 times for 120 yards in a blowout win last season against the Rams. Oh, that seems weird, doesn't it? And then the other one was against the Giants in 2019. He had 27 carries for 126 yards. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of like heavy touch experience. I would be shocked if this is a guy that's getting 20 plus carries a game. Like that's just not what Mike McDaniel is going to do with him. And so I think it's like 60-40 Raheem Mostert, or maybe 60, maybe 55. This is the dangerous play by me math wise. 55-35. What's that? That's 55-35-10 or something like that. Or
you can do 50-25-25 if you want.
There you go. That's better, Sully. Who's dabbling in 55? What's wrong with me? The point being is that I would be really surprised if any of these guys are necessarily a true feature back. And the Edmonds thing is just shot. Like he could be explosive in this offense. I think he'll catch plenty of passes. But I would just be really, really surprised if he was like just a pure feature back for the Dolphins as well. All right, let's go to the New York Football Jets. And we talked about Mekhi Becton earlier. I mean, okay, we can start at safety first if you want. Who starts at safety alongside Jordan Whitehead?
It could be LaMarcus Joyner. I mean, again, he's 31 years old, not clearly the long-term answer at all, but they do have a 2020 third round pick in Ashton Davis. They have Jason Pinnock. I mean, there's a couple of guys there, but ultimately they've invested heavily at the corner spots this offseason, whether, you're bringing Sauce Gardner in the first round. So you have pieces in that secondary, but the safety spot, for someone who can purely play back and play that free safety role, I think that to me is the biggest question mark. I think Jordan Whitehead's a little bit more, strong safety-ish, right? I mean, I think that's more his playing style than it is just playing center field.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, just very quickly, I should point out that Raheem Mostert also only has 14 games with double-digit carries. So there's just no way it feels like more, right?
Yeah, it feels like way more.
He was great in the playoffs.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah, and those are just regular season carries. I'm looking at PFR, but I mean, anyway, back to So the Jets. Correction on the Jets. I think I said that Robert Saleh was in his 3rd year. He's only in his 2nd year. I'm a dummy.
Going into year 2, yeah.
Why did I think he was in his 3rd year? I don't know. I don't know why I'm asking you why I thought that. So my apologies to Ryan Wilson. My apologies to the listeners. Oh, maybe that's why somebody's very mad about Monday's episode. Because what happens is these people they download the podcast on Monday, and we're doing it's Friday afternoon at like 2:00, and you're like cracking high noons and doing dumb mailbag stuff, and it's like if you listen to it on Friday, It doesn't have Monday vibes to it.
Yeah, I mean, I was riveted about the picking nose, either hand in the pants conversation. I mean, that was A+ stuff.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like you wake up Monday morning, you're like, all right, I need my football fix. It's like boogers. Did you listen to the whole thing?
I got midway through.
Okay, so you didn't hear the final. Did you hear the second? Would you rather?
No, give it to me.
Okay, I asked people this all weekend. Blew up text chains with it. Had like lengthy discussions about it. Would you rather? You have to run across a football field.
Okay.
So the length, sideline to sideline. You only have a 20-yard stretch though, so it's basically like 20 yards of a football field. You got to run sideline to sideline. Would you rather do it with? You have to pick 1,000 rattlesnakes, excuse me, or 3 landmines.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
So like for context, because we did the math.
How many rattlesnakes?
1,000. It's essentially one, like if for every 3 by 3 square foot, there's a snake there.
I think I'd do the snakes. I feel like I could I'm not fast. I'm not at all fast.
Right.
But I do feel like I have enough speed for that to realize that I'm there and to strike. I could already be 5 yards away.
Wow.
As opposed to me being just very unlucky. And then the step before I finish, I hit the landmine.
Yeah, the landmine is like you don't know what's coming. And it could be like 3 landmines at the end, like spread across so like you're like boom.
Like at least with the snakes, I could focus on running. I'm going to be so in my head about where I step and where I go with landmines. At least it's just littered with snakes, so I'm facing it regardless. At least I know what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah, you've seen Squid Games, right?
Yeah.
It's like the final test where it's like the glass bridge where you have to pick right or left, and if you choose incorrectly. Also, I figured out why Robbie, my son, is knowledgeable about Squid Game. I was like, well, how does he know about Squid Games? It's because Mr. Beast does them on YouTube.
Yeah,
he does them in like a not death fashion.
No, it's more like just stay in this ring for as long as you can.
No, yeah, but then they do the glass thing, but it's without glass. It's like a plastic trap drops, and you fall into like a bucket of foam. So Robbie's like, yeah, it's a glass. I'm like, oh, there, I get it. You think it's like a harmless, funny? Okay, you didn't know that it's like a evil. Yeah. Anyway, the glass walkway is like you don't know. That to me the lack of knowing when I'm going. Like you take the step and then it's like,
I'm slowing up. I'm zigzagging when I would just normally run straight. And I'm probably increasing my odds of hitting it by thinking about it too much.
Yeah, and like the other thing is with the snakes, you can like jump over. There's just ways to potentially avoid them. Also, they could like end up clustering in one corner. There's all kinds of stuff that could happen. So I'm with you. I think snakes. Nada in the comment says landmines, and it's not even close.
Wow.
Yeah. Nada, is that just a simple like I'm playing the odds and I don't care?
Pretty much that, and there's always like a snake is going to glance you. You are going to get some venom in your leg, no matter what.
Oh yeah, you were getting bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like over under 5.5 is like bare. Like I'm taking the over, or like number of bites you're dealing with.
Now, forgive me for not knowing this, but rattlesnake's venom, does that kill you, or
I mean,
can you seek medical attention and be good?
Yeah, if you get bit, you can survive.
Okay. See, all right.
Now, if you get bit like 10 times, also like if you take your first step and like that first snake bites you, it's gonna make running a lot more difficult.
For sure. I'm envisioning like a running start. Like I'm gonna start like at the water cooler and then pick up speed.
Like what if all 1,000 snakes were like they're like, we're at the front of the thing.
I try to hurdle it, which would just not end well. I'd roll over it,
and then like you land and like you turn around the snake. Also, snakes are like scared of humans. Like you can, in theory, like all those snakes are gonna be like coming after you, like as soon as you hit the field. Like a bunch of them,
there is that school of thought.
Yeah. So anyway, this is now just a snake or landmine podcast. Nothing else. What were we talking about? The Jets?
Jets secondary.
Yeah. Let's just move on to the tackle position. That's a fun way of getting out of any discussion of the Jets secondary. I think Mekhi Becton, we mentioned, and George Fant, like Becton, I think you can even make the case that Mekhi Becton is a more important player for the Jets. Mekhi Becton having a great season is more important for the Jets than Zach Wilson having a great season.
I don't know about that. I mean, I understand you're talking about a premier
No,
tackle.
I'm not saying it's a. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Like, it's a hot take. How about that? It's a hot take that I think most people would disagree with. But yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, you're talking about protect. Like, we talk about it with. I mean, go back just even to Andrew Luck and Joe Burrow and stuff, like protecting the quarterback, and Tua even. That's half the battle. I mean, if I don't care how talented you are, generational quarterback in Andrew Luck, a Super Bowl appearance last year for Joe Burrow. If you can't protect those guys, then it doesn't matter how good they are. Even think of Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl against the San Francisco 49ers. Or no, the Buccaneers.
If you can't protect your quarterback, like especially a young quarterback, he's going to struggle. He's going to get hurt. He's going to force things. He's going to be running around. He's going to try to do too much. Like, you have to protect your quarterback. Absolutely.
So, I mean, yeah, from that standpoint, they're all connected. If he's not playing well, then your quarterback's not playing well, and then your team's not playing well. So, yeah, I can see what you're saying there. With Becton, again, it's mostly injuries. And when he's healthy, is he going to be at the left tackle spot? Is he going to be competing with Max Mitchell, the rookie, for the right tackle spot? Because George Fant played well last year at left tackle for them. I don't think that was a particularly huge problem. So if they prefer that consistency for somebody that is going to, maybe the ceiling's not as high as Becton, but at least he's going to be there, that might possibly be what determines this.
And, and Becton, if he's able, like he suffered a bad injury. Like, he had a great rookie season and looked like he was going to be like a franchise left tackle. And then, again, the injuries have been a problem. But like, yeah, I mean, I think it's not outrageous to put Becton at right tackle and say, look, be a downhill blocker who is great in the run game, and we'll like shift some pass protection your way, and Fant's going to stay on the left side and just kind of handle things. And be, like you said, the low upside guy. So that is Becton is just, they drafted Garrett Wilson and Jermaine Johnson and Sauce Gardner and Breece Hall with their first 4 picks. They had opportunities to take a left tackle or to take a potential franchise, like a franchise left tackle or an offensive lineman or even a right tackle, right? And like put back to the left tackle. Like, at the very least, the picks by the Jets signify some confidence in Mekhi Becton to perform at a high level. It is hilarious watching like Duke Mayweather, who's the like OL masterminds on Twitter. And like, he is like constantly yelling at Jets fans who are yelling at him because he posts videos of Mekhi Becton. And he's like, why is this the only lineman I post? He's like, I post like 25 different linemen doing various drills, and the only one who like draws like outrage is Mekhi Becton, because Jets fans are Looney Tunes. Very quickly, Zach Wilson. Where do you like, to me, Zach Wilson was very much up and down last year. Sort of what you expect. I mean, rookie season, he was hurt too. Flashed at times, but I don't think I would say he had a great rookie season. Like, at no point was it like, oh, he could be rookie of the year. Like, would never, not even close. Do you think he's a year 2 leap candidate?
I think that there's a chance that he's not, and I think it's even more. It's a little bit more concerning. I don't necessarily know if like Justin Fields is going to have a great second season either, but at least you can point to the roster not necessarily being this, as prolific. I think the Jets roster right now, especially on offense, is better than what the Bears have. And so when you talk about an improved cast around you, a backfield that has Michael Carter, who I thought was really good last year, you add Breece Hall, you add a bunch of weapons at the receiver spot, you really invest a lot at the tight end position, bringing CJ Uzama and Tyler Conklin. So, I mean, you're really investing all around it, which is what you should be doing with a young quarterback, but I don't know if he necessarily makes that leap. And obviously the jokes, you can make all the jokes about the offseason headlines with, his friend's mom or whatever like that. But I think we even said this the last time I was on too, that's all well and good if you play well and you can, you can just brush those away. But if all of a sudden you're starting to play poorly, the questions about focus and what your priorities are and all that stuff will come to the limelight, especially in a place like New York with the Jets. So I do have some concerns about him taking that leap. I think it's probably right there with Justin Fields, with my, the 2 guys that I'm most concerned about.
Yeah, I agree. So was it the Patriots game he got hurt, I guess? Yeah, because Mike White came in against New England, I believe. And then,
Oh, you're right. Yeah. I think I was at that game too. Wow.
And I think that there you go. If you look at, it's like you can't really look at that game in particular just because it's, like he got hurt, so you can't. He's 6 of 10
for sure.
But like his first game against Belichick, 19 of 33, 210 yards, 4 interceptions, sacked 4 times.
Yeah.
And then like the final game of the season for Wilson where he played Buffalo. And I'm just sort of thinking like that, this is for the games he's going to deal with, these defensive coordinators who have a history of giving him fits. 7 of 20 is 35%. That's not good. Completions, 87 yards, 1 touchdown, 8 sacks. Like he was sacked 5+ times. He was sacked 5 or more times, 4 times during the season. Like that is like he was sacked a ton. So the protection is key, but Wilson also needs to be ready to take a leap. And I think it is very fair to ask to question whether or not he will take the leap. And absolutely when he doesn't, to Sully, there will be mother. They'll be talking about moms and friends will be discussed. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. For Sully, I'm Brinson. We'll see you guys later. Thanks, bud.